Alright, so today we're programming for Michelle Basnett, not to be confused with Camille LeBlanc Basnett. They're actually nothing alike, from what I've heard. So we are on Michelle's 6th week, starting tomorrow, of CrossFit Games training, following semifinals. When she came to us initially, she was pretty deconditioned, hadn't been training very much, incredibly strong, talented on the barbell, really good mover. Found a great foundation of efficient movement, mobility, skill. So truly the biggest areas we had to shore up was her ability to handle volume and workouts. There's a dog hair right there. Got it.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you're welcome. Ability to handle volume in workouts, whether that was some weightlifting movements with a lighter barbell or gymnastics density, and her general metabolic fitness, just her conditioning, aerobic conditioning, endurance, and especially running. So over the past leading to semifinals, sorry, getting ahead of myself, she didn't do any lifting that wasn't under fatigue. I just felt like the volume that she was at when she came to us and what she could handle going into semifinals wasn't as high as I would have, as what would be ideal, and I did not see any opportunity for her to train not being out of breath. She needed to work on her conditioning to the extent that all of the training she was doing, she needed to be out of breath. So that's how we trained. It worked out for semifinals. She qualified. She was still strongest in the field in that snatch workout, despite not snatching super heavy, which is good, and I was happy with that. And now, leading into the games, our goal together, her goal is to be proud of her effort and to have fun, which I think is really important. In 2021, she didn't have the best experience, and this is a once in a lifetime thing for a lot of people. So we don't want to go there and fuck it up in the sense of it's a wasted life experience. So we want it to be an awesome experience. We want her to have fun, but more than anything, we want her to be able to look back at the 8 to 9 weeks of training leading into the games and be like, I'm really happy with how I prepared. I did my best. Now I can have fun and do my best, and not be as concerned with the results. I think we're taking that approach because she's coming off such a big burnout, and because our relationship coach to athlete is super new, and I'm still learning her a lot, learning what she's capable of and what her potential is and what she wants out of this. So this year, I think the tangible expectations are low. The intangible expectations of, how the weekend goes and how we respond to adversity and how much fun we have, that's really high. We want that to be high. We want to avoid cuts, obviously. We want to experience the whole weekend, and so we're going to do everything we can to do that. So we worked on conditioning for the most part leading into semifinals. Now we've reintroduced a lot of strength training, but in some unconventional ways. I've got her back on quite a bit of heavy squatting and pulling. Her overhead is extremely strong, so she does that, but it's not a big emphasis. It's not the biggest emphasis. Like, more than anything, our emphasis has been on her snatch, technique, and some percentage training, because that is what was feeling the worst leading into semifinals. Her clean and jerk is great, so we've been working on her snatch, and then just overall her heavy squatting and pulling from the floor. And then gymnastic strength has been a big emphasis. So we have a day every week where her strength session is entirely dedicated to like weighted strict pull-ups, dips, strict pegboards, etc., etc. And we have 2 days where she's squatting pretty heavy. We have a day where she's going through a back squat progression, another day where she's going through a front squat progression, and then we have every day when she's doing her Olympic lifting days, she's working on snatch and clean and jerk, and those days are also kind of supplemental hinge days where she's finishing those sessions with some heavier pulls, snatch pulls and clean pulls from the floor. And so that's where I start with her training. So over the past 6 weeks, we have been building squat, deadlift, front squat, and Olympic lifting progression along with her gymnastic strength. And this past weekend, not weekend, she's had a bit of a deload. And this week we're gonna test a couple lifts, not at a true rep max effort, but like heavy singles or heavy doubles or heavy set for the day based on feel, just to get an idea of where her numbers are at. And I think this is most valuable. The information we get from this week and these numbers are most valuable in terms of game planning for the games when heavy events or heavy lifts or maxes come out, if they do. We've also been playing around with quite a bit of strongman implements and training heavy on those as well. So starting this 6th week, she's coming off a bit of a deload where her volume over the past 6 weeks has been super high, and I've got a running list of movements that I want to touch on a pretty frequent basis. I don't want Will to zoom in too much on these, but we've got this running list of movements that I want her to touch on a pretty frequent basis on, based off of things that I think have the potential to show up, have shown up, are progressions of things that have shown up, stuff I've gotten from JR, stuff I've gotten from my coach, stuff I've gotten from Andy. I think more than anything, it's my first experience training a CrossFit Games athlete, so I'm leaning a lot on those guys, JR, Andy, my coach John especially, more than anything. And so that's all to say. I start the week by building out her lifting, and then we're going to go into quite a bit of intensity this week. This is not going to be the testing week. The volume will be just slightly lower than the past 6 weeks, but the intensity I'd like to be pretty high. She is coming off a bit of a deload, so I'm not going to start the week super heavy. First day I'm going to start with a strict gymnastic session, and then the next day we're going to go into some odd object stuff and squatting and Olympic lifting, and then we're going to go from there. So I think on Monday, I'm going to have to backtrack a bit because I read that incorrectly. On Monday I have her doing a strict gymnastic session, and then some heavy lifting, building to some heavy sets on a deadlift, a strict press, the trap bar, and a shoulder to overhead. Just kind of a descending ladder of time domains where she has a bit of time to find a heavy single in these 4 evolutions. And I've got some RPEs written next to them, like rate of perceived effort or exertion, just to hold her back quite a bit. I think the only implement where I'm giving her a long leash in terms of effort is the trap bar deadlift. It's relatively lower strain on the body than a barbell deadlift or a strict press or shoulder to overhead, and I want to play with that a bit. Then we've got a couplet that's pretty nasty. It's a twist off of the 10-to-1 wall walk thruster workout from the games in 21. Some muscle up wall ball work, and then she's going to be on the road bike in kind of a crit style of workout. It's a triplet of road biking, similar to bike repeater from the 2020 COVID games, where they had that bike around a pylon, legless rope climb. It's going to be similar to that, where I want her on a course where she's making a lot of turns so she can get familiar with the bike, a road bike, and making turns like that in a workout where your efficiency and how you can manipulate the bike is really important in your time. Tuesday, we're going to go into some strongman lifting. I'm going to have her on some pretty heavy jerry cans and bear hug carrying. She'll build to a heavy single snatch, not at a super high effort. We just want to see where her snatch is at right now, following a lot of the technique and percentage stuff we've been doing. And then we'll do some log clean and jerk practice or clean and press practice. From there, the previous day she had a pretty good dose of workout squatting. So I'm not going to have her squat super heavy on Wednesday or Thursday, but I'm going to have her come back Friday and she'll do a heavy back squat in some form or fashion. Then that's going to leave us Sunday to test a heavy clean and jerk. I don't need her to test a heavy front squat this week. If we're testing a heavy back squat, I'd rather put that into a clean and jerk, and I don't think I want to do a complex because we've been doing quite a bit of complex work with the clean and jerk, and she's fantastic at it. I more so want to see how her one clean, one jerk is coming along. And then that's going to leave Saturday for potentially some bench press. So we need to test a heavy bench press as well, and a heavy overhead squat, which would be pretty low strain on the body compared to everything else. So she's been swimming on Thursdays. This Thursday I'm going to give her a swimming workout at the pool. It'll be a couplet or a triplet. Those are my dogs. I think on Thursday I'm going to have her do a swim burpee workout I've done several times. We've been building her volume in the water. She's a good swimmer, not great yet, and I think we're at the point where I want her to start to feel quite a bit of discomfort in the water, as opposed to just swimming at hard paces when all she has to focus on is her swim stroke and her technique. I want her to experience what it's like getting out of the water, performing a movement that gets you pretty out of breath and uncomfortable, and then getting back in the water and having to hold a certain swim pace while you're hurting. So we're going to do that this week, and then I'm going to scroll back up to our list of things I want to touch and her particular weaknesses that I think we need to touch. Based off where she's at and the things we need to put most of our attention to. Most of this is volume-wise, progressing from week to week. I've gotten most of this guidance from my coach John in terms of building her volume on a week-to-week basis in pretty subtle ways, not just adding another training piece, but increasing the volume within each workout from week to week, and then once she's comfortable there, adding a piece and dialing the volume back just slightly from each piece, but overall an increase in volume, and then continuing to go back and forth, increase the volume within each evolution, then add an evolution, increase the volume within each evolution, add an evolution, etc. So we've done that over the past 6 weeks, and coming off this deload, I want it to be deload, back off, reload. It wasn't really much of a deload, but I want her to focus more on intensity and purpose from session to session rather than the overall accumulated workload of each day. So I come up with workouts and just sit here and brainstorm and try to use my creative processes on movement combinations and pairings that we've seen from the games in the past, or things that we can expect to see together. I like to be super creative because I know that's a huge part of programming for the CrossFit Games is creativity and things that we aren't expecting. So I try to think outside of the box as much as I possibly can in terms of what we can expect and or things that she is not expecting. And we do that quite a bit, along with touching things that I know she needs to get a lot better at and that we are definitely going to see. Another thing we are putting a lot of emphasis on are like transitions within workouts, advancing the barbell, advancing the sandbag, moving implements, things like that. So we make a note of adding that in as well. I don't think in terms of your fitness that makes a massive difference in terms of, this practicing these transitions and logistical nuances within workouts adds to your fitness, but it definitely adds to places on the leaderboard, because little things like that and being comfortable with executing things like that can mean a matter of seconds in a workout. And as everyone who's ever done the open knows, a matter of seconds can mean lots of places on the leaderboard. So you have a big focus on that, jogging transitions, etc.
Pretty good, thanks for asking. The reason for my call, we're going to be working in town this week offering free roof estimates.
I'm good. My roof's great.
How about your windows, doors, or bathroom free estimate?
My windows, bathrooms, and doors are great too, dude. Thanks though.
Thanks so much for your time.
Bye. Dude.